Hello there, and thank you for joining us for our Wheel and Anchor webinar featuring our upcoming journey through some of the most scenic and culturally fascinating parts of Portugal, namely the city of Porto and the Douro Valley, as well as the Azores Islands. Now, I've always thought of Portugal as one of Europe's most rewarding traveling destinations. And while Lisbon is the one that usually gets the spotlight, this trip is about something a little different. We're going to focus, first of all, on the north, where Portugal's wine, cuisine, and cultural identity have their deepest roots. After that, we'll head west to the Azores, a group of volcanic islands in the Atlantic that feel like another world entirely. This trip brings together some of the country's most beautiful and authentic regions, from the tiled alleyways and riverside lanes of Porto to the terraced vineyards of the Douro Valley, and finally, the principal island of the Azores, São Miguel, where we'll find crater lakes, thermal hot springs, and whale-rich waters that will give us all a taste of life in these remote islands. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll walk you through the day-by-day itinerary and show you what makes this particular trip so special. If you've joined one of our Wheel and Anchor webinars before, feel free to jump ahead using the time markers that are below or also shown in the description box. But if you're new, I'd invite you to stay with me for just a couple of minutes while I share a little bit about who we are and how we travel. Before getting into the itinerary, let me share a little bit about what makes Wheel and Anchor different. We're not just another tour company. In fact, we're a community of Canadian travelers united by a shared philosophy, which is, first of all, that the most meaningful experiences happen when you take a little more time to go beyond the surface of a destination. And then, just as importantly, it's about when you share those moments with like-minded people. I'll get into a little bit more about that in a moment, but if you're watching this, you've probably got a travel bucket list somewhere. Most travelers do. I certainly do. Maybe it's written down, maybe it's in your somewhere online, or maybe it's just in your head. But here's what I've learned after 3 decades of organizing travel for Canadians, that the real magic often lies just beyond those bucket list places. It's about the unexpected moments, like inadvertently taking a subway the wrong way in a foreign city, or discovering a cool part of town that you might not have otherwise seen, or maybe poking your head into a restaurant that's not quite open yet, only to be invited in for an impromptu conversation with the owner. Those are the kind of stories that we tell when we get home because they fall outside the structured part of any organized trip. But perhaps most importantly, it's about who you're sharing those experiences with. There's something uniquely comforting about exploring the world with fellow Canadians, people who just get you, who speak your language, both literally and figuratively, who often become lifelong friends rather than just fellow travelers who you might never see again. So if you value good conversation and a shared laugh in surprising places and the freedom to connect authentically or explore independently, then you might just have found your travel home with us here at Wheel and Anchor. Now, our travel philosophy centers on two fundamental goals, and these transform how you experience the world. We like to say it's about being well traveled and well connected. So, let me talk for a moment about being well traveled. And this doesn't mean a race to collect passport stamps, it's more of a practice of presence. Sometimes I like to call it the curious wanderer's mindset, slowing down, tuning in, and allowing a place to reveal itself to you on its own terms. When you savor those rhythms, the stories, and the everyday rituals around you, a journey shifts from being just a sightseeing tour to insight, becoming an experience that shapes you long after you've returned home. Now, if you think about your truly well traveled friends, those are the ones with the most unique stories and experiences, not to mention learnings from their travels around the world. So, secondly, it's about being well connected. And this is where Wheel and Anchor truly differs from conventional tour operators because connection isn't just about your fellow travelers. It's about how travel deepens your relationship with the whole world. We create opportunities for you to get hands on with arts or crafts or maybe cooking, learning from artisans who've kept centuries old techniques alive, and to point out the places where you can actually interact with locals and have the kinds of conversations you might just have with folks back home on the other side of town. And together, These elements create what we call the wheel and anchor transformation. You return home carrying more than just souvenirs. You'll have newfound perspectives that enrich your daily life and lasting friendships that continue inspiring you long after your luggage is unpacked. This is travel that changes you. Just want to say a couple more things before we delve into the details of this trip, because I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. Who are the people of Wheel and Anchor, beyond our members, of course. So, first of all, my name is Gordon Drager. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. And as I mentioned, I've been working in and around the travel industry for the better part of 35 years. I've organized trips for Canadians to just about all parts of the globe. But I couldn't pull off all these promises that I've just talked about without an incredible team of people, all of whom are as dedicated as I am to ensuring that we deliver some of the best experiences for our members. Now, the person who's most important for you is our lead trip specialist, Paula Zarnick. You can see a picture of her here to my right, and she's the person who, when you drop us a note or give us a call, is most likely going to be frontline to make sure that your questions get answered and to assist you in joining us if you decide to join us on this trip or on any of our trips. So, let's now dive into what makes our Porto, Douro, and the Azores trip so special. Our plan today is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be your virtual guide, and I'm going to take you on a little journey around Porto, Douro, and the Azores, following the itinerary that we have in store for you so that you get an idea of what to expect from this incredible experiential style trip. I'll start off with a geographical overview with the map, and then I'll walk you through the highlights of each day of this adventure. Now, this trip is actually a bit of a hybrid experiential and sojourn trip because we do have a longer stay both in Porto as well as in Furnas in the Azores, which is an anomaly to our experiential trips, which are typically designed for travelers who want to dive deep into a destination through our most robust itineraries. Experiential trips are move at a more lively pace. They typically have 1 to 3 nights in each location, but as I said, we're going to spend 5 nights in Porto and 4 in Furnas in the Azores. And these experiential style trips allow you to cover a wide range of regions by land. You'll enjoy immersive cultural experiences, expert local guides, and a strong sense of community, making each day a new adventure beyond traditional sightseeing. But as I said, as this is a sojourn, we have a little more time, both in Porto and in Furnas, to enjoy free and leisure time and to really soak in these incredible spots. So let's get our bearings before we dive into the day-by-day details of this journey. Portugal, of course, sits on the western edge of the Iberian Peninsula. Obviously, immediately to the east is Spain, and of course, it's along the Atlantic Ocean. It's a country that's been shaped by seafaring trade and agriculture. And although it's small by geographic standards, it's actually packed with a whole assortment of diverse landscapes and regional traditions. This journey is going to take us through 3 distinct regions of the country, each with its own rhythm and flavor and atmosphere. As I said, we're going to start off in Porto to the north. It's Portugal's second largest city, and in many ways, its cultural and culinary capital. It's known for its riverfront beauty and iconic blue and white tiled buildings, and of course, port wine. From there, we'll make our way inland into the Douro Valley, one of the oldest demarcated wine regions in the world, where the steep terraced hills, you've probably seen pictures of it, they've been carved out by centuries of viticulture. Then we're going to fly west, about 1,500 kilometers out into the Atlantic to the Azores Islands, which is a volcanic archipelago often referred to as Hawaii of Europe. Our time here will focus on São Miguel, the largest and most interesting of the islands. So let's now dive into the day-by-day details of this Porto, Douro, and the Azores program. We arrive in Porto today, a city full of tiled facades and riverside lanes, as well as warm, generous food. There's various ways to get to Porto, and although there aren't any non-stop flights from Canada at the moment, you can connect either via Lisbon or through Ponta Delgada in the Azores itself, or through one of Europe's other many hub airports. Our flight specialist can certainly give you an idea and some advice about, depending on where in Canada that you're coming from, about how best to start this trip in Porto. After landing, you'll be met at the airport by our local driver and transfer company, and brought downtown to the hotel. It's a beautiful property within walking distance of the main sites, and it'll be our home for the next 5 nights. Once you've checked in, you've got the whole day free to relax or head out for a stroll around the neighborhood. The hotel's common spaces are absolutely lovely, and the area is full of little cafes, bakeries, and leafy squares. Porto is one of those cities, and you'll find this right away. It's easy to love. It's compact, it's full of character, and it manages to feel both cosmopolitan and deeply rooted. We'll get to know it more in the following days, but the first day is a chance to ease in and set our clocks to Portugal time. Now, today on day two, our first full day in Portugal, we'll start off with a few highlights of Porto, ending with a tasting of the wine that made this city so famous. We'll enjoy our sumptuous breakfast at the hotel as we will every morning, and then we'll meet for a short orientation. This will be a chance to hear more about how the trip will unfold and how we travel together as part of the Wheel and Anchor community. Then we'll be off on foot with our local guide to explore, and we'll start off at Sao Bento Station, which is famous for its tiled panels that tell the whole story of Portugal in blue and white. It's quite a spectacle. And from there, we'll wander down to the Douro River, into the riverside district called Ribeira, and out toward Foz do Douro, where the river meets the sea. Along the way, we'll stop at some of the city's most iconic spots, like the modernist Casa da Música and the gardens at Serralves. Well, lunch will be in Matosinhos, which is a seaside neighborhood well known for its seafood. And we'll end the day across the river in Gaia, where we'll visit one of the historic port wine cellars and enjoy a tasting. All in all, this is a perfect introduction to Porto. It's full of stories, flavors, and amazing views. Next, on day three, we're going to take a trip outside of Porto to visit Braga, a city with Roman origins and deep religious significance. Now, it'll be appealing to you regardless if you have interest in religion or not, and it's usually missed by overseas tourists who don't have enough time, but we're going to take it all in to the fullest. From Porto, we'll head north and we'll be out for the full day to one of the oldest cities in Portugal. Over the centuries, Braga became one of the most important religious centers on the Iberian Peninsula, and we'll visit its so-called Triangle of Faith. There'll be the hilltop sanctuary of Samero, the UNESCO-listed Bom Jesus do Monte, with its dramatic Baroque stairways, as well as the 11th century Sé de Braga, the oldest cathedral in Portugal. But afterwards, we'll wander through the city's historic center. It's a place where layers of history sit side by side. Roman ruins, Gothic churches, 18th century facades, and shops that still carry that mid-century charm. There'll be time for lunch, a little bit of exploring, and maybe a coffee in one of the quieter corners before we return back to Porto in the afternoon. The next day will be perhaps one of the most important ones because it's an entire day at leisure to get lost in the beautiful city of Porto. You might choose to walk along the Douro waterfront, tracing its lower banks past the old warehouses and the iron bridges. One of the best views in the city is from the Dom Luís I bridge, and from there you can cross into the neighborhood called Vila Nova de Gaia. We'll have stopped there briefly on the first day, and then you can take the cable car right down to the water's edge. As we saw on the first day, Gaia is where most of the port wine cellars are, and if you're into port, or maybe you're just learning about it, there's many more cellars that offer tours and tasting experiences. For example, Taylor's has a peaceful garden with peacocks roaming around in it, while Ramos Pinto preserves the original office of its founder, complete with a lion rug, which would be obviously otherwise quite heavily frowned upon today. Of course, you might want to go and visit the now famous Lello Library of Harry Potter fame. This spot, which is best reserved in advance to avoid the lineups, features incredible interior architecture and is well worth the visit. But no matter what you do, the city invites you to slow down and savor it. After the sun is out, don't miss the chance to watch the rooftops of Porto catch the late afternoon light from the Jardim de Moro. Today, we'll head out of town once again to explore Guimarães, a city often called the birthplace of Portugal. It is often said in this city that Portugal was born here, and as we wander through its old streets and fortifications, that claim will start to make sense. We'll start off at the remains of a 10th century castle, a place that once anchored the region's earliest defenses. And from there, it's a short walk over to the Palace of the Dukes and Braganza, a striking residence from the 16th century known for its stout stone columns and impressive wooden ceilings. But our visit here isn't just about stone and history. We'll also get to sample some of the region's flavors. There's a slice of tocino de so, a rich almond-based convent sweet with an unexpected name, and a taste of vino verde, the crisp, light, fizzy white wine that defines the whole area. After lunch, we'll return back to Porto with a deeper sense of how this small city helped shape the entire region. Today, we're going to trade in a little bit of Atlantic breeze for the warmth of Portugal's wine country as we make our way inland to the Douro Valley, which is a region carved by centuries of viticulture and framed by these iconic terraced hillsides. As we wind through the valleys of the Douro region, the landscape will tell its own story. Of course, there's steep slopes lined with vines and stone paths leading to centuries-old estates, and the views unfold at literally every bend. We're going to visit some traditional quintas, where winemaking is still a family affair. Lunch will be served at one of these properties with regional dishes and house wines that reflect the character of the land. In the afternoon, we'll stop in at a smaller and more understated port producer, a quiet introduction to the depth and nuance of the Douro, and a taste of the patience and tradition that define it. Our day will start off with a quiet morning, but it'll end with a memorable meal in a former railway warehouse. Since we had a very scenic and intentionally prolonged drive to get here, we're going to ease into the rhythm of this slower paced part of the country. The morning will be free to relax and enjoy the beautiful surroundings. And that might mean just a coffee with the view of the terraces, a short stroll through the vines, or just soaking in the stillness of the region. I can honestly say that you'll thank us for leaving the time to really soak in this amazing scenery. And later on in the afternoon, we'll take a short drive to the town of Regua for lunch at Casta e Pratos, a standout local restaurant set inside the old railway warehouses. These buildings once stored barrels of port before they were shipped downriver, and now they house a kitchen that celebrates regional flavors with a contemporary twist. After lunch, we return to the hotel with the evening all at our leisure. It's a chance to take it all in, the views, the quiet, and the feeling of being tucked into one of the world's oldest wine regions. Today, we'll get a little more active again, and we're going to explore the Douro from two perspectives, on foot and by boat, with some excellent wine in between. We'll start off with a visit to one of Douro's landmark wineries, a place that helped put the whole region on the map. And we'll learn about how the valley's steep terraces, its slate terroir, and the sun exposure all shape the wines, and how these factors come together in the bottle. The tasting will focus on balance and structure, a more in-depth look at what makes Douro wines so distinct. You may not have opted for Portuguese wines at your local wine shop or liquor store before, but after this trip, you might just change your perspective. Next, we'll step onto a private boat for a 1 hour cruise along the Douro River itself. This is where the valley feels at its most dramatic. Cliffs rising up from the water, vines stacked high above us, and a gentle breeze pushing us along. There'll be a drink, some snacks on board, but nothing that will distract us from the real highlight, which is, of course, the incredible views. Lunch will be at a family-run estate where we'll enjoy a home-cooked meal paired with their own wines. Afterwards, we'll take a walk through the property, following stone paths down to the cellar and the gardens and the lookout points all across the valley. This will be the kind of day where everything slows down and where the landscape simply speaks for itself. Today, we're going to say goodbye to the mainland and head west to the middle of the Atlantic, to the island of São Miguel. After breakfast, we'll make our way back to Porto and to the airport for our relatively short flight to Ponta Delgada, the main city on the island of São Miguel, which is the largest island in the Azores. It's about 2.5 hours, so enough time for a little rest and a look forward to what's going to greet us over the next few days. When we land, we'll be picked up at the airport and we'll make our way across the island to Furnas, which is a small village tucked into a volcanic valley. And along the way, we're going to have a stop in Calaura, which is a quiet seaside spot with a lovely natural lava rock pool and some whitewashed houses. And then we'll stop again at a little spot called Vilafranca do Campo, where we'll try Queijada da Vila, which is a delicious little cheese pastry that dates back to the 16th century from the convent kitchens of the day. By the time the late afternoon arrives, we'll be at our hotel. It's a beautiful spot with thermal waters, lush gardens, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the hotel. The Terra Nostra Garden Hotel is tucked inside the botanical gardens of this little village of Furnas, which happen to be also UNESCO listed. It's an Art Deco style hotel and has roots going all the way back to the 1930s. There's lush greenery and geothermal springs. It's one of São Miguel's most iconic properties. It's peaceful, it's elegant, and it's ideally located for exploring the volcanic beauty of the Azores. Staying here means having direct access to the famous Terra Nostra thermal pool, or it's actually more like a pond. It's got naturally warm, mineral-rich waters, and the hotel features, in addition to the pond, which is amongst the gardens to the back of the hotel, it's got a spa, an indoor pool, and a restaurant with some delicious local cuisine. They also serve the island's cozido, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes. Which is slow cooked in geothermal steam. Staying in the hotel, we have access to this thermal pond in the mornings before it's open to the public, as well as in the evening. So it makes for a magical place to sit after a day touring the island. There's various kinds of rooms at the Terra Nostra, and they're all inspired by this Art Deco standard. Some of the rooms have balconies and terraces overlooking these gardens, but each one is thoughtfully designed. Beautiful plush beds, eco toiletries, free Wi-Fi of course, throughout the whole hotel, and all the essentials that you'd want in this tranquil and restorative setting. Today, we're not going to venture too far on the island because there's lots to see in the immediate area. We're going to take a relaxed walk around the lake and get a taste of the food cooked by the earth itself. We'll start off the day on foot, and we're going to explore the trails around Lake Furnas with our local guide. This is, in fact, one of the most geothermally active places in all of the Azores. You'll find spots where steam rises right out of the ground and the scent of minerals that is so distinguishing. The route is gentle, it's scenic, it's not difficult. We pass through some green slopes and these bubbling calderas where locals will lower pots into the earth to cook cozido, which I mentioned just before. This is a traditional stew. We'll have a chance to try it for lunch later in the day. We'll also pass by Poco da Dona Beja, where the thermal pools invite a relaxing soak, and we'll also take in the neo-Gothic church of Nossa Senhora das Vitórias, which is a striking little building tucked amongst the trees. It's really a peaceful and immersive day, part nature walk, part cultural dive, right from our doorstep. We're going to venture out today on an excursion to explore a bit of the island's north and east coasts, where we'll find tea plantations, waterfalls, and some spectacular scenic overlooks. We'll begin with the scenic drive to Santa Iria, a lookout point that gives us our first big view of the ocean's reach on the north coast. We'll then head over to a place called the Goriana Tea Factory, which is actually the oldest and one of the only tea plantations in Europe, where they still use machines dating right back to the 1800s. The setting is amazing, and the tea is grown right around in the plantations on the surrounding slopes. We'll then head over to a spot called the Ribeiro dos Cordeiros, which is home to a waterfall known as the Bride's Veil. You'll see pictured here. It's a series of old water mills sit amongst the trees, and after lunch at a quiet and beloved restaurant, we'll stop at the village of Nordeste and then Ponte do Sossego, which is another one of the island's most iconic viewpoints. Our final stop will be in Povachao, the site of São Miguel's first settlement, and we'll have a little chance to wander around the town center before heading back to Furnas. Today, we're going to check out from our hotel in Furnas and explore some of the island's famous lakes. We'll visit a thermal reserve, and we'll end up in the capital of São Miguel, not far from where we landed, where we'll be checking into our new hotel. We've got a pretty full day as we make our way around the whole east side of the island. We're going to start off by heading up to Pico de Barrosa, which is the second highest peak, and we'll have panoramic views over the Lagoa de Fogo, a crater lake surrounded by untouched forest, and one of my favorite spots on the island. From there, we'll head down to Caldera Velha, which is a lush protected reserve where there's a warm waterfall feeding a natural pool. The minerals in the water stain all the rocks around it red, and steam rises up through the ferns. From there, we'll head over to Ribeira Grande, a small town on the coast with a local distillery that produces a range of fruit liqueurs. And yes, we'll definitely get a chance to stop and sample some. We'll have lunch then at near the twin lakes of Sete Cidades. The lakes Lagoa Azul and Lagoa Verde, basically Green Lake and Blue Lake, which appear side by side in this volcanic crater, separated only by a narrow bridge. From the Vista do Rei, which is the main viewing point, we'll get the classic view of the two lakes and the legend as to how they were formed. On our final leg, we'll head back to Ponta Delgada, the capital, and we'll stop in at a traditional pineapple plantation where these famously sweet Azorean fruits are grown in greenhouses. Pineapples in the Azores are some of the sweetest that I've ever tasted. We'll have a little pineapple liqueur to wrap up the visit before we head into our hotel. Situated right in the center of town across from the marina, we're going to be staying at the Hotel Marina Atlántico, which is a modern and comfortable base for our last couple nights in the Azores. It's inspired by São Miguel's seafaring heritage. It's a place where history meets contemporary design. It's got wide views over the harbor, and it's an easy walk to all of the cafes, markets, and the main waterfront. Our hotel features a full wellness center with an indoor pool, a gym, and of course, spa treatments. It's an ideal spot to wind down after a day of exploring the island. Many of the common areas look out over the harbor and the Atlantic, and it creates a calm and breezy atmosphere throughout. The rooms are all bright and very thoughtfully designed. We have options with of either city view or ocean facing with balconies, which is, of course, perfect for watching the boats come and go out of the harbor. Every room has all the essentials with a relaxed, sort of nautical feel to it that fits the setting perfectly. On our last full day in the Azores, we're going to head out on an exciting adventure to try and find some whales. After some breakfast in the morning, we'll head over to the harbor on foot and hop on a boat for a half day whale watching excursion. Now, the waters around São Miguel are among the best in Europe for spotting whales, thanks to the deep ocean trenches and the island's location along major migratory routes. Depending on the season, whether you're joining us in the spring or the fall, we may see sperm whales, pilot whales, and various species of dolphins. There'll be a local marine guide on board who will offer insight into the region's marine life and help us understand how the Azorians have coexisted with these animals for generations. The whole trip will wrap up around midday, and you've got lots of time in the afternoon to explore the wonderful town of Ponta Delgada or just relax and enjoy the views. After 2 weeks, our journey will come to an end and we'll have to bid farewell to the Azores. You'll have breakfast again at the hotel and time to pack up, and there'll be one last little stroll through Ponta Delgada before heading to the airport for our flight back to Canada. If my overview about our trip to Porto, Douro, and the Azores has inspired you at all today, you can find some more information about our upcoming trips on our website, and you'll find the link in the description below this video, which will take you directly to the webpage for our upcoming trips. There, you'll find a summary of the overall itinerary and a link to download our detailed trip itinerary, which is our full color e-brochure that will give you all the details that you need about this trip. Of course, if you have any lingering questions or just want to chat with someone about whether this trip is right for you, by all means, drop us an email. Paula will get back to you, set up a call so you can have a chat to make sure that this trip meets everything that you might expect from Portugal. Thank you so much for joining me on this virtual journey covering our Porto, Douro, and the Azores trip. I hope it's given you a bit of a glimpse of what you can expect. Now, if you enjoy following our webinars on new trips, you may want to consider subscribing to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button just again below this video. That way, every time we post a new webinar about a new trip, you'll be alerted. But otherwise, again, I appreciate you taking the time to explore this part of the world with me. And if you're not already following our newsletters that come out every Saturday, I invite you to join. Again, you'll find the link below, and I hope to see you on one of our trips. And regardless, wherever your travels may take you, I wish you all the best.